says, hey, Biden, what the hell happened down there? The app didn't work that you said was going to work. You had 2 years to prepare. What'd you do to the border? They don't even ask him that. How do you think things are going, sir? Like he has nothing to do with the border. Well, like Jonathan Turley said in an op-ed over the weekend, this is state-run media. This is how the press acts in Russia, how they act in China. Joe Biden is about as untouchable as a dictator. All very similar, except this guy's even stupider than the Bidens, because the Bidens had plausible deniability. And if uncovered, would sink Joe Biden's presidency and candidacy immediately.
Jesse Waters strides into the political arena, proclaiming an astonishing revelation, a figure who outstrips even the Bidens in the realm of perplexity.
There's definitely room for DeSantis to attack Trump with the Fauci thing, and that's going to be interesting to watch, but will it really be a factor in the Republican primary? Probably not. It's in the past. So if DeSantis is going to use against Trump, he's got to make it about tomorrow. Why does that matter in 2024? Now, I haven't heard him advance that issue into the future yet. Have you ever seen White House staffers jump in the middle of an interview like that? The anchor was just rattling off a list of bad things happening under Joe Biden. Hate was on the rise. Gun was on the rise. Attacks on women on the rise. And the White House staffer said, we can't do that, sorry. Can't do what exactly? Ask the President of the United States a question about the country? So Ron is saying Don spent too much money and pushed amnesty. Now, none of this really matters until they face each other on the same debate stage. Everything melts away, and the voters get to see these arguments under pressure. Now, meanwhile, Joe Biden's in the weakest political position of his entire presidency. Fox News polling shows 64% of voters say Biden's a weak leader, and CNN did their own polling, and it turns out their numbers were just as bad. And if uncovered, would sink Joe Biden's presidency and candidacy immediately. We believe that Joe Biden has been blackmailed by this for years, which would explain why he acts the way he does. He has tapes of Joe Biden. He has tapes of Hunter Biden.
With unyielding candor, Waters thrusts into the spotlight a subject who transcends the norm, inviting us to grapple with the depths of their cognitive prowess, or lack thereof.
And the Biden White House, after 3 days, said the trans flasher, you ready, is no longer allowed back at the White House. Finally, Joe Biden drew the line somewhere. Except the trans flasher is allowed in your kid's kindergarten class and in any underage drag brunch in the country. Apparently, the White House now has standards. Your kids' class, they're not allowed to have standards. So he says he's Cuban, and all Cubans keep cash sewed into their windbreakers because, the government can seize it at any moment. We Googled him, because that's what we do, and we found out he was born in the United States. His parents are Cuban, but his parents in 1954 had him in the United States. They didn't have money seized by Castro. Yeah. So this whole Castro, I wonder, does Senator Rubio also keep gold bars in cash? Just because he's worried about the authorities? Obviously, that's BS. Gold bar Bob learned everything he knows from the big guy. You nailed it about the Foreign Relations Committee. Yeah. Your own foreign relations, you have the power to kind of green light or red light foreign aid. So when there's a freeze on foreign aid to a country, you say, you want me to unfreeze that? Pay me the cash. Or even if the money keeps flowing, you say, you know what, I did that. Now it's me. And so that's how these guys get paid. He learned it under Joe, and Joe did it the same thing. Remember that $1 billion? You know what, you're going to have to fire the prosecutor. The funny thing is, this guy also got a prosecutor in there to help him out. He got the Porsche, he got the Mercedes. Biden's had diamonds, this guy had gold bars. They all had dinners with the clients. It's all very similar, except this guy's even stupider than the Bidens, because the Bidens had plausible deniability. What I want to know is, the Biden Justice Department popped this guy a year ago. So he's walking around for a whole year knowing that Joe Biden has him by the gold bars. Mm-hmm. What was Joe Biden squeezing him for an entire year? When you go back and you look at it, this guy's been a thorn in the side of Biden and Obama for many, many years. He's been against the Iran deal. Biden's run to that. He doesn't want to open Cuba. Biden wants it open. He's against the whole Venezuelan amnesty deal. So this guy's now gotten out of the way. So Joe Biden, foreign policy-wise, he's cleared the deck and he can do what he wants.
His words become a bold declaration, challenging our preconceived notions and forcing us to recalibrate our understanding of intelligence and acumen.
So they basically opened Hunter's laptop on South Lawn. But that wasn't one of Hunter's friends. The flasher's Joe's friend, Rose Montoya. And the flasher shatters. That's right, the flasher's trans. And if you can do whatever you want. If you shatter, you can do whatever you want. No shoes, no shirt, no problem. Now, if this was going to happen on any White House, I mean, my money would have been on the Trump White House, but no. The flasher happened on Biden's watch. Now, who put together the guest list? Was it the same people who vetted the guys we flew out of Afghanistan? Now, everybody knows there are certain places you just don't flash. Church, school, funerals, probably the White House. Women can't flash at the White House. Men can't moon at the White House. But if you're, anything goes. And not only that, Biden called the flasher a hero.
Wow.
Now, today I spoke to people who were in the room during presidential sit-down interviews under Trump, under Obama, under Bush. And a White House staff member cutting off a journalist in the middle of a question to the president is unheard of. What kind of corrupt arrangement are we witnessing here? And the staff couldn't even save Biden. He went on to confuse Obama with Trump. Are they trying to stop the question from being asked? Or are they trying to stop the president from answering it? I don't know. And it happened twice during the interview. Later, staff tried to cut the president of the United States off from answering a question about Hunter Biden. And we'll have more on that later in the show. Now, Biden can't make it through an interview with MSNBC without help. How is he going to make it another 4 years?
As the world listens, Waters' voice echoes with a blend of incredulity and disbelief, compelling us to question the metrics by which we measure intellect.
Biden's physically, mentally, and politically weak. And when you look at his 2020 campaign, he had a lot of people on his side. Remember the FBI, Silicon Valley, the Chinese? How much help are they willing to give him around this time? Now, we're watching them, and they know that we're on to them. So Biden might not make it. And this makes the Republican primary so critical. Whoever gets the nomination is in a great position. And right now, the numbers point to Trump. Fox News polling shows him with a 33-point lead over DeSantis among Republican primary voters. Trump's feeling confident. He doesn't think DeSantis has what it takes. He can barely keep a lid on a bribery scandal without the help of the entire system. Honorable is not really how I describe our exit from Afghanistan, or how your family steps a 4-year-old girl for child support, or tells half the country. And when has Biden proven effective? Prices are up, wages are down, the data is obliterated. 2/3 of the country now agrees Joe Biden's a mess.
Within this startling revelation, the atmosphere of astonishment unfurls, urging everyone to reassess the bounds of comprehension and redefine their expectations.
Here's Joe Biden at dinner with foreign actors and his son. Well, they're paying us on board, they can't tell you. Well, we have emails describing kickbacks for Joe Biden, 10% for the big guy. And if Hunter's setting up White House meetings for Chinese nationals, a guy named Wang. Does that sound like innuendo? You have IRS whistleblowers who say Biden's Department of Justice, they've been slow-walking charges against Hunter to protect the fans. Can't say with surprise when we hear the Department of Justice is been sitting on evidence that Joe was exchanging political favors for cash. This is happening right under Barack Hussein Obama's nose. Barack Hussein Obama likes to say his administration had no scandals, but his own VP was running a foreign cash register out of his White House. But it could get worse. Hunter's finances, they're about to get cracked open in an Arkansas court. All because the deadbeat dad's trying to lowball child support payments to his love child. His country agrees with Jesse Waters' prime time. The country caught on to what we've been saying for the last 2 years. Biden's at 36% approval, and he's about to enter this summer from hell. High gas prices, no more Title 42, and some filthy bank records are about to come out. Every Republican politician should be demanding, during any interview, release the tapes before this evidence is destroyed in a war or stuffed in a locker with a manifesto. I mean, at this point, the only thing keeping the Biden presidency alive is the sinister and seditious American media. And my mom came over to the house on Sunday, and we were talking politics. I kept trying to tell her about the Biden family taking bribes from China. She said, "Where's the proof, Jesse?" Since when did she care about proof? She never asked for proof of Russian collusion. But I said, "Mom, Congress has the bank records. They held a press conference." She said, "Son, I never heard about it." I said, "Mom, all you do is read the New York Times." My mom reads the New York Times front to back every single day. She's done it for the last 10 years, maybe 20. Imagine reading the newspaper every day and not knowing what the news is. She didn't know anything about the Presidential Records Act. She didn't know about the Obama judge ruling presidents get to decide which records are personal and which aren't. She didn't know Biden had documents scattered around Chinatown and next to his Corvette with the garage door open. She never heard of the Chinese bribes, never heard of the Indian bribes.
We so smart, we stupid.
Jesse Waters, a provocateur of thought, unafraid to stir the pot and provoke discussions that force us out of our intellectual comfort zones.
Not only does Joe not know what day it is, but all the things going on in the country, Monday morning he delivers remarks on baggage fees with Buttigieg. The president just doesn't have the pulse of the American people, and this has to scare the heck out of the White House. And now former President Trump opened up a 7-point lead over Joe Biden in the general. 7 points. But President Biden says nothing's his fault. It's the media's. Over the weekend, actually all the weekend, right before Biden was elected to the Senate at age 29, he was about to get hit hard with just an avalanche of negative attacks. But mysteriously, his opponent's print shop that manufactured the mailers buckled, and he just slid into office. Defied all odds when he ran for the Senate as an outsider in those 70s. And then 40 years later, when he was going nowhere in politics and Obama was looking for a VP, Joe just happened to check the right boxes. White, experienced, and God knows how, a foreign policy pro. All that luck sent Joe right into the White House. So he ran for president for a third time. And the third time was a charm, because he got to do it from his basement. Remember, COVID cleared the way for Biden's victory, along with big tech and the FBI, obviously. And then when we all thought Biden was staring down a red wave, Minnie Madoff shows up with stolen cash and buys the Senate for the Democrats. Joe's been on a hot streak for the last 15 years, and he feels so lucky. He might have to put all his chips on the table and run for re-election. But everyone's luck runs out eventually, and it looks like Joe's hot streak's finally coming to an end. After Hunter confessed that the Biden family didn't get paid by China, and the laptop was his.
In this age of paradigm shifts, Jesse Waters stands as a harbinger, imploring us to expand our understandings and confront the unexpected truths that challenge our assumptions.
And there are millions and millions of people just like Mama. That if they just read the paper or watched the nightly news, they have no idea what's going on in the country. All they hear is that Trump's a scoundrel who's going to prison. And we have a news media that's intentionally not telling us the news. How can we have free and fair elections if voters aren't not only misinformed, they're not informed at all? Half the country has no idea how corrupt and sloppy Biden is. It never used to be like this. The media would spin stories. Now they don't even tell you the story. My mom says, "Well, why doesn't the media report any of this stuff?" I said, "Well, they do. Well, if you see it, they bury it maybe in one article on NBCNews.com. But you're not going to see it on TV. They're not going to follow up. They're not going to pursue it. Any story about Biden, they vaporize. Joe Biden's losing to Trump, so he's having him arrested. And the whole country has no idea what's going on. Put the corruption aside for a second. Hunter Biden's throwing around the N-word, and the media is not covering it. First time they never covered a white guy saying the N-word. And whatever happened to the Me Too movement? Hunter puts chicks in chokeholds, dangles money and promotions in front of them, no coverage. Me? I got something caught in my eye one time, I blink, and they accused me of winking and flirting. Hunter's sleeping with Chinese spies. The Chinese are lining the Biden's pockets with gifts, cash, and diamonds, and Trump's being charged with espionage. Joe and Barack gave $1 billion in cash to the Iranians in the middle of the night. Trump's being accused of espionage. Biden has gotten the greatest press coverage of any president besides Barack Obama on his honeymoon. The media doesn't touch his corruption. They cover it up and ignore the border, the wave of inflation. And they spent the first 2 years of his presidency covering January 6th. Biden should be thanking the media. Biden's a wounded animal in the White House. Blacks, Latinos, independents, youngsters are ditching him. He needs a life preserver during an MSNBC interview. His son may be about to be indicted on Wednesday. Congressman James Comer and Senator Grassley are holding a major press conference revealing evidence that Joe Biden took bribes. And we'll have Grassley later in the hour to explain what he's got. Is the Biden protection racket going to be able to save him like it did in 2020 when everything had to go right for Joe Biden to win? It could have been a bunker. The CIA, FBI, and big tech colluded to cover the laptop up, and the media triggered race riots. And the media knows exactly what's going on. Kamala's on deck, but Joe doesn't seem ready to let go. The press may know AOC, but the people don't. The sanctuary city dream lives on. And suddenly AOC had walked into a war zone.
In the realm of political commentary, Jesse Waters' voice reverberates dramatically. AOC walked into a war zone.
The city's on edge. This is not a crowd to lie or lecture to.
Could you to make the reason and we are joining the city.
Most real New Yorkers, we don't do photo ops. We don't have time. This isn't Washington, D.C. You don't. They don't come to New York City, plant a mic, and tell you, we're better than you.
When I was walking up, she said, hey, the Brandon Apple police officer said, hey, here's this, look at that big, juicy, this Latina, like whatever. I think the thing that was so crazy about that incident is not even that it happened, but that it happened on the Capitol steps, right in front of a Capitol police officer. He was engaged in very clearly threatening, aggressive behavior right in front, on the Capitol steps, in front of an officer, and he wasn't even asked to take a step back.
Now, all of a sudden, she stages an arrest with the same Capitol Hill police. Didn't look that intense. The same Capitol Hill police she accused of being accomplices to the January 6th riot. When New York City Mayor Eric Adams said 100,000 migrants would destroy his city, most New Yorkers heard it as a battle cry. It was the first time a Democrat had ever been so bold. Democrats were walking through a third world country in Midtown and pretending everything was fine. Well, the mayor realized we were going bankrupt, and the sanctuary city dream was. But today, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez held a press conference in Midtown Manhattan, the heart of the migrant crisis, to declare no. The sanctuary city dream lives on. And suddenly AOC had walked into a war zone.
With vivid imagery and a hint of irony, he paints a picture of the Congresswoman's foray into the tumultuous world of politics.
History will remember this day as America's own Tiananmen Square moment, when a single protester stared down the barrel of a militaristic regime. But in some ways, AOC's fight for justice was even more unique, because the officers arresting her also wanted to date her. We know this because there were no handcuffs. Nobody got roughed up. In fact, the cops were total gentlemen. They handed out bottled water and overripe bananas. AOC bravely ate that banana, handed to her by the ultra MAGA police because she needed the energy for what would come next. And then once all the cameras were rolling, AOC, obviously one of the theater kids in high school, put her hands into a pair of invisible handcuffs, ready for her close-up, only briefly breaking out like Harry Houdini to throw a fist to the crowd. How did she do that? Isn't this the same AOC who was complaining about the Capitol Police officer not arresting her heckler last week? And that we need to be more compassionate and understanding. New York's been pretty compassionate with the migrants so far. We've been paying for $500 a night hotel rooms. We gave them Xboxes, flat screens, cribbage. They don't even play cribbage. We've been doing their laundry for them. We even cooked culturally appropriate food for them after they threw away our PB&Js. And now they're getting free education and free health care. And they're paying no taxes, but for us, we pay the IRS half.
There were actual officers working with this, and we never got to the bottom of that, and we never got any answers about that. And to this day, we're just supposed to pretend that that never happened. I have no idea what happened to the people on the inside who were very clearly sympathetic with what was going on and opening the doors wide open for that. And I'm supposed to sit here and pretend like none of that ever happened, and then right afterwards, you have a massive, you just have this idea that throwing money at that problem is going to make it go away without any accountability.
But now AOC is throwing herself to the mercy of these Capitol Police officers. AOC, what was it like when you were arrested?
Amidst the political battleground, his words become a metaphor for the challenges faced by those who enter the arena of public service.
Nobody's coming here for us. We're here for ourselves. If we don't get up and fight for our city, nobody's coming for us. They're coming to destroy.
AOC, who can waltz in anywhere she wants, Hollywood, the U.S. Capitol, Miami during the pandemic, can't walk around New York without getting chewed out by the people who love this city, because she clearly doesn't. The Congresswoman's been exposed. Primetime was in her district just a while back, and she's just a selfish no-name there. But prison's not for everybody, and AOC seems to always be right in the middle of the action, or at least she says she is.
I hear boom, 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 boom. I jump into my bathroom. That whoever was trying to get inside got into my office. I just start to hear these yells of, "Where is she? Where is she?" And I thought I was going to come out. And this man is a Capitol Police officer. He was looking at me with a tremendous amount of anger and hostility for an adding up. Like there was no partner there. I didn't know if he was there to help us or hurt us.
Yeah, for the record, though, AOC wasn't even inside the Capitol on the 6th. But those Capitol Hill police officers do sound pretty scary. I wouldn't have taken a banana from them. The Congresswoman constantly finds herself on the front lines where cameras just happen to be, like the border, or on the beaches of Normandy. But AOC's arrest this afternoon may go down in the annals of the greatest performances, spectacles, of all time.
Can you tell me who represents you in Congress? Does AOC sound familiar? Hello.
Never heard of her. Who's AOC?
What would you say AOC stands for? What do you think AOC stands for? Michelle?
The press may know AOC, but the people don't. The politicians know her, but real New Yorkers don't know who she is, and if they do, they don't like her.
Through the lens of his analysis, Waters emerges as a storyteller, crafting a narrative that captures the intensity of the political landscape.
Ted Kennedy showing up to court in a neck brace after Chappaquiddick. Nancy Pelosi kneeling and draped in African tribal robes. It might even outdo Hillary at the Black Baptist Church.
I don't feel no ways tired. I come too far from where I started from. Nobody told me that the road would be easy.
I just wish there was something more AOC could do besides getting fake arrested for rights. If only she had a job where she could write legislation to change the law. It's called Congresswoman. I think the job is Congresswoman. I think they do that. This is a microcosm of the Democratic Party's detachment from the streets. Pontificate about the blessings of Bidenomics, but once you walk the sidewalk, step out of your town car, it's not resonating. Jerry Nadler joined AOC in declaring the wonderful virtues of sanctuary cities. An ancient congressman who should know better. Jerry spent his whole life in politics, and somehow he hasn't earned an ounce of New Yorkers' respect. And this time, Democrats don't even need to turn around. They can see the knife going in. And it's one of their power players, an up-and-comer, and a darling of the left, AOC.
I don't need to be rude, but if you're looking at properties as investments in today's hands in your pocket to buy a property, and then you gotta hire an architect.
She's already on thin ice after not endorsing Joe.
President Biden, he is saying he's going to run again in 2024. Will you support him?
You know, if the president chooses to run again in 2024, I mean, first of all, I'm focused on winning this majority right now. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but I think if the president has a vision, then that's something certainly we're all willing to entertain and examine when the time comes.
That's not a yes.
Yeah, I think we should endorse when we get to it, but
See, now AOC is kind of starting to sound like a defector. She's saying a lot more than she should.
The burden of crafting this narrative rests heavily on his shoulders as he navigates the intricate terrain of political storytelling with narrative finesse.
Propelling us into the future. An immensely proud of the countless New Yorkers who have stepped up to welcome the asylum seekers who have come here. City workers and volunteers. This country's just hungry for politicians who just speak for us, who listen to us, and then deliver. Sure, Mayor Eric Adams made a big speech, but was that to save New York or to save his own hide? Looks like to me he's just begging for a bailout. I respect Eric Adams because of his law enforcement background, but he's also better than Bill de Blasio. But enough with the stunts. You slept on a cot, okay, but Biden made New York into a border state, and you won't even say his name. Maybe Nancy's grip on her is loosening after Pauly P's arrest, but it's not like this is totally unexpected. She's been going rogue for years.
There's a very, very, very direct connection between us holding ourselves to a higher standard, holding and having that include our families, and and there are many different proposals here. But whether it's spouses, whether it's children, we have to be able to assure the American people that it's not happening here, and that they don't have to worry about if they're competing with their member of Congress's stock portfolio.
So nobody in Democrat leadership is happy about this, and now they're definitely not going to be happy after what we're about to show you. AOC is suggesting that January 6th might have been an inside job. How come Twitter hasn't banned that? She's getting into some very dangerous territory here. Where's the disinformation czar when you need her? Mary Poppins.
information laundering is really quite ferocious. It's when a hostess takes the line and makes them sound precocious.
And did the squad just suggest that the Capitol Police were in on the January 6th ride and opened the doors? I thought you weren't allowed to say that. I thought that makes you a conspiracy theorist.
His dramatic portrayal serves as a clarion call, inviting us to reflect on the challenges and expectations placed on those who serve.
Nancy is not going to be happy about this.
Yesterday, the world saw the truth of January 6th. They saw what we knew, that our Capitol Police and Metropolitan Police of Washington, D.C. were our heroes.
Were the Capitol Police officers heroes or insurrectionists? I don't know. It's just something the Democrats seem to be fighting over. And this isn't the first time AOC said something was fishy about those Capitol Police. Well, last year, AOC even